Saturday, July 26, our devotional word for you today. Hope you're having a good weekend. This is how to become generous. How to become generous. I'm not sure we become generous. I think it's already a condition of our heart. But anyway, Luke chapter 12, verse 15. Jesus is speaking. Then Jesus said to them, "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. A man's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." Greed. What is greed? Well, it's a strong, insatiable desire to acquire more possessions for self. And then when you get that, you want more, and you want more, and you want more, and you want more. There's never greed. Greed is never satisfied. It doesn't just afflict people who have a lot. A very poor person can be greedy. Doesn't matter whether you have much or little. If you always want more, more. That attitude. Greed is an attitude that'll wreck your life. Jesus had two warnings against greed. First, he said, watch out. Watch out. Be aware. Know that it is there. Jesus said, watch out. Be on the alert. Watch out. The second thing, he says, be on your guard. Same thing? Not really. Knowing that it's there, be prepared to defend against it. So watch out. Be aware that it's there. And then be on your guard. Guard. You have a plan. You have a plan to combat this attitude of greediness. Greed is getting more for yourself. Generosity is giving to others. What are some ways we can give generously to others? Well, go to a restaurant. When you tip grudgingly, just the bare minimum? Or are you generous? Well, you say, it depends on the service. Okay, I can go along with that. Say you get good service. Are you generous with them? Well, yeah, I give 12%. That's not generous. Are you generous with them? And if you pray, and they see you praying, they recognize you as a Christian, and you're stingy, not a good witness, not a good testimony at all. Matter of fact, many waiters and waitresses hate to work on Sundays at noon because of the church crowd. They come in, they complain more, and they're stingy. That's a terrible witness. We need to do better. And then how about compliments? We give tips. Another thing is compliments. Somebody does something for you. Maybe they hold the door. They do something, and they show respect for you. Thank you. Compliment them on their courteousness. Somebody has a smile or a good attitude. Compliment them on that. Somebody's doing a good job. You see a janitor, a custodian working on something, and you can tell that they take pride in what they're doing. Compliment on that. Teachers. See a teacher that goes out of her way to help a student. I know, and here you have teachers that attend the sporting events or musical events or what other events their students are involved in. That's going over and above and beyond. And we need to be generous with our compliments to those teachers. Look for ways to be generous. There's a lot of ways. We can do the bare minimum, but really the things that stick out to us are when people recognize something and they comment on it. So look for ways to be generous with compliments, tips, with a good word for somebody. There was a rich industrious. He was watching a fisherman sitting lazily beside his boat. He says, "Why aren't you out there fishing?" He says, "Well, I've caught enough fish for today." He says, "Well, there's plenty more day. Why don't you catch more than you need?" Fisherman said, "Well, what would I do with them?" "Well, you could earn more money and buy a bigger boat so you could go deeper and catch more fish. You could purchase nylon nets, catch even more fish, and make more money. Soon you'd have a fleet of boats and be rich like me." The fisherman asked, Then what would I do?" "You could sit down and enjoy life," said the industrialist. "Well, what do you think I'm doing?" the fisherman said. The industrialists work hard, work hard, work hard. Why? So you can sit back and do nothing. And the fisherman says, I'm already doing that. Being content. Paul said, I've learned to be content, whether I have much or whether I have little. Generous. Can we learn to be generous, whether we have much or whether we have little? Even though we have little, we can still be generous with what we have. The Bible's full of stories of poor people who were very generous, and not necessarily with finances, but they were generous in a number of ways. We can be generous with our time. So a lot of ways we can be generous. Today, would you look for a way to be generous with the people that you live with? In your home, look for how you can be generous to those you live with. And then Sunday, hope to see you at church on Sunday. And when you come Sunday, would you be generous on Sunday? He said, he's asking for tithing. God tells you that's fine. I'm thinking more of being generous with your smile, being generous in friendliness, just being generous with God's people. See you generous on Sunday.